Who do the hosts think will be the best running back in 2021? I'm going Breece Hall. Dibs.
You would have said Chuba Hubbard last year too. Look how that worked out. Like, I think running back is a tough position to project based on what we've seen. Now, I think that is the easy choice. He's got a solid quarterback, Iowa State, up and coming program. But I think everybody and their brother is going to be trying to shut down Breece Hall, which makes it tougher for him to do his job. But I see where you're going.
I mean, I think Breece Hall is definitely going to have numbers because the way that Iowa State's offense goes. But as far as best running back, Kennedy Brooks at Oklahoma. I think Bijan Robinson is not a name that people are familiar with because of Najee Harris for the most part at Alabama. But it's hard to think of an Alabama running back who's not going to put up numbers.
Who?
Jerry and Ely.
At Ole Miss, which you're going to have tons of production just based on the way that offense and that defense are going to go, without a doubt.
Tank Bigsby, Bijan. It's hard to know who's going to be the best one. It's trying to figure out from an NFL perspective or from just college football production. To watch.
Yeah, I took this as a fun to watch. Who's going to be your All-American?
Deuce Vaughn.
Great.
I don't think he's going to be an All-American because I don't think he's going to put up. He could be, but I don't think he's going to put up the kind of numbers that for the overwhelming majority of All-American voter types that are going to look at Deuce Vaughn and say, okay, that's an All-American. He's not going to have 1,300 yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. But I just think as far as total usage in the offense and for what he can do, as far as an excitement factor, I might go with Deuce Vaughn.
How about Trayvion Henderson? The first 5-star running back prospect at Ohio State since Beanie Wells in 2006. I don't know if I'm totally sold on Master Teague as the guy. They've had a dynamic runner. If you look back, the history of running backs at Ohio State, somebody taking the helm there. I wouldn't be surprised if Trayvion takes over the load there before long and is probably is most talented in that room. And I think he could be the star that bursts on the scene.
Yeah, I think Master Teague's kind of a nice changeup, for an offense. I don't know if you wanted to be your feature guy because he is kind of a straight line. If he hits the hole and it's gone, once he picks up speed, he's hard to catch and he's hard to tackle. It's just if you've got to have him shifting and moving around, he kind of slows down in those kind of changes. So yeah, I could see Henderson taking a big role for Ohio State right away if he's able to fill that spot. He could take the Trey Sermon role kind of deal.
So the Breece Hall play comes in with this path, and it's much like Chuba Hubbard, which I guess should give you pause, which is as a freshman, we saw it. We saw it. I guess Chuba might have been more of a sophomore, but this is there have been 2 years where at first he flashes, then as a sophomore, he leads the Big 12 in rushing and was really the most dynamic part of that offense. Now we're going into a junior season and we're thinking okay, you could be the best running back in college football. That same kind of path could be in the making for Texas A&M running back Isaiah Spiller, who came in and he was part of a rotation a little bit as a freshman, but last year really emerged as the alpha in that running back room. And I think Isaiah Spiller might be another one that we should keep an eye on, especially when you've got this shouldn't be a knock, but as we're talking about running backs, one of the places we're going to look is okay, so where are they going to need you? And if Texas A&M breaking in a new starting quarterback, that's the number one thing that they're going to try to lean on, at least in terms of trying to be able to have some kind of consistent offense. I like the Bijan Robinson pick. When I'm thinking about the SEC, Georgia's got, it's stable right now. Zeus White, James Cook, they've got a couple there. But I in terms of a one alpha who's going to be the best running back in the country, it's just tough right now to find a lot of options except for players who've been productive already.
I do think in the SEC that Tank Bigsby is a dark horse kind of option because if we think of Gus Malzahn's offenses, they use running backs obviously, but if we look back at Boise State's history, particularly under Brian Harsin, a lot of the numbers that he's been able to get with running backs and just the amount of carries that his running backs have gotten in those offenses over the years, Tank Bigsby might become more of a featured player in that offense. They might kind of build the offense around him in a lot of ways. So I think he's got a good chance to put up some All-American kind of numbers this year.
Who in the Pac-12 before we move on real quick, just sort of like as we've been bouncing around mentally, who in the Pac-12 could end up doing that? Is it
Jarek Broussard? I mean, if we look at Broussard
Colorado,
last year, yeah, like if you look at it, like we talk about Breece Hall led the nation in rushing, but as far as yards per game, he finished 7th. Jarek Broussard finished 3rd in the country in yards per game. He averaged about 150 yards per game. Colorado used him a lot. I think that is something that is probably going to continue. Elsewhere, I mean, Stephen Carr finally just entered the transfer portal from USC, and I was like, wow, he's still there. But I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Like USC's offense, it's an air raid offense, so it's not like they're going to have the running back that's getting a ton of carries. Who's at Oregon now?
I think we've lost CJ Verdell, right?
Yeah, that's whoever
Travis Dye. Is he back? He was a junior last year.
I think Oregon, whoever takes the feature back role from Oregon, I think is going to put up good numbers. I would think that Washington's running back, whoever takes the lead role, is going to have good numbers. But that's the thing too. Like, are we looking at clear number ones, or are we going to see teams that are mixing up carries? Because we see a lot of that more often these days too. There really aren't a lot of like lead alpha horses, kind of like Breece Hall. That's kind of becoming a dying breed.